Daily Sean coming at you. What up, tribe? We're going to jump right into this one. I got a lot to say. I thought that in the short time that I've been doing videos that I talked about the male nurse stereotypes, stigmas, urban legends, and I went back and looked at the archives and I couldn't find anything other than I think I might have did a video on what male nurses shouldn't say to their female coworkers, which was a humorous post, which some didn't find funny. I think maybe I was confusing, for those of you that remember, I was with another company doing videos way back in the day. I think I did a video for them. So, my bad. We're going to jump into this one. Had another tribe member ask me to talk about the male nurse's stigma and if I've ever encountered problems as a male nurse. Man, so much to say. Let's get right to it. I don't have problems being a male nurse in a female dominant profession. There have been a handful of times where a patient has refused my care because I was a guy, I was a man, and they didn't feel comfortable having a man take care of them. The first time it happened, I was only a nurse for less than a year, maybe a year if I was lucky. And I was upset, I was offended, I was pissed off, I was blaming everyone but myself. I thought that I was being judged. I thought someone's questioning my care, that they think that I'm not as good of a nurse. I thought of everything under the sun except for the most important thing, which is, what did the patient want? Why was the patient asking for me not to take care of them? Because they didn't feel comfortable having a man care for them. Regardless of what their illness was and what their diagnosis was, they didn't feel comfortable having a male take care of them. And I'm imagining that, role reversal, it probably happens more often than we'd like to think, that there are men who come in with a problem that they feel very private about and they don't want a female nurse taking care of them. It's perfectly within that patient's rights. And most nursing units will accommodate them if they can. I mean, we all live in the real world, and let's not even talk about staffing. So if you don't have the staffing to change that scenario and assignment, unfortunately the patient's going to have to deal with it. But in the first case, they easily changed the assignment, and I let it simmer for a very long time. In fact, I'm imagining it simmered for years until I had an epiphany, and I think it was because a senior nurse, someone who was my mentor, sat me down or basically slapped me in the face and said, "This literally has nothing to do with you, Sean. It has everything to do with the patient. Try and remember there's a human being in that bed. Try and remember that they have feelings and they have wants and they have needs, and ultimately they're scared. And your job is to make them less scared." And my presence as a man was not doing that. So they were asking for someone who would make them less scared. And that's the answer. No reason to sit there and debate about it any further. If it's that big of a problem, then you need to bring it up with patient relations or with your supervisor. I mean, you could sit here and talk about men working in OBGYN. I also know men that have worked in that capacity, in that department, in that specialty, and they have their own challenges. I'm imagining that, there were probably many women who probably don't feel comfortable with a man treating those particular challenges. So maybe if someone who knows of a male nurse working in OB, they could reach out to me, and I would love to have a conversation with them, and we could chat about what they do to survive in that particular position. Other than that, I found 10 things that are quite common across the board in just about every social media circle that I could find. Quick search, my own personal experiences and opinions. I found 10 things that are common misconceptions about being a man in this female profession of nursing. And we're going to talk about them briefly. I'm trying to make this brief, Tribe. I really am. Get right into it. Number 1, every male nurse is gay. I don't even know what to say about this. In the 15 years I've been doing this, I can count on one hand how many men that I've met or worked with or know of who are in this profession. Okay, let me rephrase that. In the interactions that I've had in the 15 years at the bedside, in the job force, working as a professional, I can count on one hand how many times a male nurse was actually gay. And who cares? Who absolutely freaking cares? That's their business. It's not yours. Move on. Who cares? This is literally a non-issue. You have men who are working in a female-dominant profession. That is the only thing I can come up with as to why this particular urban legend showed up. Move on. Let it go. You're boring me. Number 2, difference in pay. There is some empirical evidence and data that supports this. That men who possess the very same job or job position that a woman possesses, that they're getting paid more money. There were a couple studies that I remember reading a couple years ago, and this may have changed. You could absolutely call me on the carpet on this. And I know the evidence is weak, but it's there. There is evidence that supports this, that men are getting paid more money to do the same job as women. And it has nothing to do with the position itself, or the geography, or the facility, or the specialty. Doesn't matter. If you look at two positions, same exact responsibilities, doing the same thing, and a man and a woman are doing it, that they're discovering men are making more money. How much more? That's up for debate. But that there are repeatable cases of men making more than women. So, as much as I'd love to say this is a bunch of BS, there's some evidence out there. I don't know how to answer that one other than you need to fight for your worth. And that's really what it comes down to. I quite honestly, why do we care what our coworkers make as long as you're making what you're worth? I truly have no idea what my coworkers make. I have no idea what my staff nurses make, because it's none of my business. If they're not happy with their pay, then it's something that they need to take ownership of, and hopefully they're able to find a common plane or an agreeable bridge for that. Every dollar, every dime that I've earned, I fought for, and as much as it bothers many of the tribe out there and half the nation, I wish I had a better answer for that one. So I can only apologize, and please let me know how I can help. Number 3, and I'm literally reading these from a list that I created, so you're going to have to bear with me. Number 3, men are treated differently and or better by physicians. So a physician will treat a male nurse differently than they treat a female nurse. I don't think that problem is a nursing problem. That is a society problem. And I'm just going to leave it at that, because you're going to find that across every profession, every blue-collar job, every white-collar job, that men are treated differently by, let's call them supervisory roles. Because in a roundabout way, physicians are do have a supervisory role because they give direction, they place orders, and we have to carry those orders out. Okay, I don't want to use the half, but that's the way in healthcare system, that's the way the echelon works. This problem, I believe, is not a nursing problem. This is a society problem. And it seems that we're trying to be better about that. But here I am, a man, versus what a woman would say. So, simply acknowledging that this is not a problem that is just that is only seen in the nursing profession. Number 4, and I got to start numbering these or else I'm going to forget. Number 4, all male nurses are hired to be the muscle, to be the hired hand. They're there only for the physical labor. I don't think that they're hired for that, but let's be honest, when it comes to physical labor, turning and positioning patients, the men are recruited more than the women, especially when they're physically stronger than their female colleagues. This is just pure physics. I don't think it's a chauvinistic thing. I think it's a safety thing. If there is a man who's working with you, the female colleague is weighing $110 or even $120, $150, take your pick. And then you have a male counterpart colleague who weighs 185 up to 225, and you're turning and repositioning one of our morbidly obese patients. I don't know about you, but I would like to minimize the potential of anybody getting hurt. So I'm going to utilize whoever the heck is the strongest. I can tell you point blank that we have a particular position in our units that is filled by a woman who will throw you around like a rag doll. And we call on her all the time. So it's not about man versus woman. It's about who's the strongest and most capable to keep everything the safest. And that's just the way I feel about it. Have I been chosen to turn and position a patient over a woman simply because I'm a man and I have muscles? Probably. But, I mean, come on. Do we really have to pick and choose? Do we really have to, split hairs with that? Who cares? Come on. Really? Moving on. Number 5. Men are wannabe doctors. Why just men? Why not women? You know, the whole stereotype of men are doctors, women are nurses, that's kind of faded. It's gone. Have you looked at the percentages of how many women are physicians versus how many men are nurses? There are more female doctors than there are male nurses, percentage-wise. The last that I checked, and I could be wrong, I'd love for you to correct me, the percentage of males in the profession of nursing is just over 10% now. When I started almost 15 years ago, we were barely 6%. So now we're 10%. So we're growing, but we got a long way to go. The percentage of females working as a physician at any type and specialty, I think it's 35%. But I'd love for someone to give me raw data on that. So, just from a percentage perspective, there are more women working as a doctor than there are men working as nurses. Yet, men are being called wannabe doctors. I think it's because of a society's norm, or the older generation, the aged generation grew up in a time where men were doctors, women were nurses. And I think it is slowly fading away. That stereotype is fading away, just like the whole tattoo in the healthcare profession thing. We're not even going to go there. Talked about patient refusal already. Already given you my spiel on that. Number 7. that men are not emotionally equipped to perform the job of a nurse, that they're not compassionate enough. I mean, seriously? Where do people get these things? Sure, I would agree that men gravitate towards more high-octane kind of jobs, ER, ICU, CRNA, but there are plenty of men who are working throughout our profession who require just as much compassion as their female counterparts. I don't know where this one came from. Are you saying that all men don't have a heart? I don't really know where this one came from. I can count right now that there are several instances where I know male nurses that I work with, several male nurses, have been given awards at the bedside for their compassion. So, bullocks. Is that even a word? Bullocks. BS. Number 7. Male nurses will have gotten better jobs simply because they are male versus female. Also, the data out there kind of supports this. Sorry, guys. It's only a sliver of data, but it's enough to make you pause and go, that there are plenty of upper management or leadership positions that are occupied by men and not women, where a woman and a man who had virtually the same amount of experience, and they chose the man versus the woman. I can tell you where I worked, that's a bunch of BS, because most of the leadership in many parts of my facility are led by women. Strong, bad MFing women who are some of the best leaders I've ever worked with. So, I don't know what to make of that one. I can simply just recognize that, yes, it is a problem, and I feel that it's getting better with time. Number 9, this was an interesting one that I saw, was that facilities are not hiring men simply because they don't want male nurses. It just blows my mind. I don't know where these things come from. I don't even know how to answer that one. As in, that's just crazy talk. So, moving on. The last one is not really an urban legend. This is just me being me and getting on my soapbox. And I want everybody to maybe try to stop this. Number 10 is that, can we stop using the term nurse? Could we please? Just stop. There's nothing good about that term. The least of which, and the most damaging thing that it does, is that it separates you from the flock. It separates you from the rest of your profession. Why? Why would you do that? Why do you need to be separated? Why can't we all just be nurses? Period. End of story. Why do we have to be male nurses, female nurses? And then the male nurses have to come up with a short-term acronym, MNURSES. I'm just trying to figure out why in the world you'd want to be called a nurse, other than someone poking fun at you, someone not taking you seriously. And the last time I checked, I'm fairly certain that most men who work in this profession want to be taken seriously, because this is not a job to be taken lightly. We are in the job of saving lives. If you want to poke a little fun every once in a while, I get it. But to use that nomenclature on a regular basis, just stop. Just stop. That's all I'm going to say. Daily Sean, I'm out.